thank you all. I want to especially, there's Myozan up in the corner there. And I want to thank him. He's got a big a family reunion with his brother and sister from Australia, and then they're off to see about 200 Kilroys in Galway. It's a big day, and he made time for us today. And all of you on a Tuesday, you're here. Thank you so much. Myozan, who I want to say was one of the original Treeleafers back in 2008. And I had to look this up, but he is my Dharma grandnephew. My Dharma grandnephew. I was thinking second cousins. I wasn't sure. It gets complicated. But he's my Dharma brother, Chodo Cross's successor, Taigu Turlur's successor, Myozan. And an old familiar face here at Treeleaf. Myo, thank you for being here today.
Great to be back, John Doe. I remember with great fondness my early explorations into the Dharma through the wonderful opportunity you offer us all in Treeleaf. You know, those of us who can make it to dojos, those of us who cannot for various reasons. And I deeply appreciate the opportunity that you created for me all those years ago, back in 2008. And, you know, I remember it with, you know, there was no Dharma really, there was no Zen where I am then that was easily accessible. So it's really valuable, this Open Doors Sangha, which I see has grown considerably. And guys, you should have seen the technology we were using back in the day. It was nothing as good as Zoom.
Oh boy, let me tell you about it. And Myozan as was a regular fixture here for years and years. But I was thinking all our priests are actually, even Koku. Koku, you weren't here when Myozan was here, were you? You were here? Okay, so Koku's the only one, but all our priests are from after. And but anyway, I want to introduce his books. His books, which I keep getting, I got to get the name right. Do not try to become a Buddha, which is good Soto advice, and is about his teachings and especially his experiences in Ireland. He is the founder and the power behind the Dublin Zen Centre. Centre is spelled that strange way they spell it over there, you know, with the R-E. Myozan is also a poet, and his collections include 3 rock sonnets and a book I have not read, which I am going to get, which is his take on the songs from the Denkoroku, which is our traditional Zen history of the lineages. So I'm looking forward to that. But Myozan, before we're going to sit a few minutes of Zazen. Anything else to say before we ring the bell? Okay. Koku, I guess, would you give us just a few minutes of Zazen? And you can sit where you are.
I would, but my bell isn't heard through my Zoom.
Okay, I'm sorry, I meant Kote.
Right, I'm there. I have a bell. All good.
Yes. Okay. without further ado, I'm going to turn things over to Myozan. I just want to say there'll be a chance for the people here to ask questions later, and anyone at home who wishes, at any time, you may email a question to jundotreeleaf@gmail.com. One word, jundotreeleaf@gmail.com, and I will ask your question. Myozan, it's all yours.
Thank you. Gasho to you all. Gasho Jundo Roshi. Thank you. Is there anything specific you want me to talk about, Jundo?
Zen.
Okay. So, my Zen practice, I think, started before my Zen practice realized it had started. And I think one of the reasons for that is that Zen is our natural state of being. That I think Zen is, Dogen in the Shobogenzo uses so many metaphors for expressing the truth. He loves to draw on images of nature, for example. So he talks about mountains and rivers. He talks about the river valley sounds. He talks about the mountains and waters. He suggests that there is a kalpa. The kalpa before emptiness is the kind of the original source of this awakening, of this Buddhahood. So I think, certainly for myself, but I imagine that many people have had some kind of an awakening experience at some stage, even before they formally come to Zen. And, I think of one particular moment standing in the garden, my parents' garden in Galway, and it was one of those spectacular autumn, what you call fall evenings. It was one of those spectacular fall evenings, and the sky was just streaked with pink and rose colors, and the mulch and smell of the leaves. It's all very immediate, all very fed through the sense gates. And there was a moment of total astonishment, of total awareness beyond words. And this was like I was a teenager. I'd say I was 13 or 14 years old. And I remember one other time I was in my school. The Jesuits educated me in Galway. I was in Coláiste Ag Náid, which was an Irish language school in Galway, run by the Jesuits there. And one day I was standing in the yard, and I had there's something happening here. There's something absolutely amazing about this, about this reality, about this thing, everything that's happening, that's unfolding. And of course, I didn't have language in any way to describe these kind of experiences. But I would say that is Zen, I would say that primordial experience, that pre-linguistic insight, that insight beyond insight, is the stuff of Zen, is kind of the deep river source from which it bubbles. And how amazing then to find later in life a tradition that had considered all of this over many generations of ancestors, and had found a way to talk about it, and had found a way not to talk about it as well. I think the third experience I had was there's a well-known Irish Zen teacher called Paul Turlur Roshi, and he's used to be the abbot in San Francisco Zen Centre in the Suzuki Roshi lineage. Paul is from Belfast originally, very troubled part of the world when he left it back in the 1970s, and he headed off and explored Thailand and Afghanistan and all sorts of places. Ended up as a Theravadan monk, and then eventually as a Mahayana priest in San Francisco. And then, after many years' practice, ended up as the abbot of San Francisco Zen Centre. So Paul used to come back to Belfast in Ireland twice a year to lead retreats. And that's, along with Treeleaf, that's where I started to explore. And it was very frustrating to me because I could have Dokusan with my teacher once a year, really, because he only offered Dokusan once a year to his Irish Sangha. But on one of those retreats, I was walking in, we were doing kinnin, outdoors, and it was a beautiful countryside in County Down up in the north. And it was summer, it was the end of summer, it was August, and the hills were verdant and full and bountiful, and the sky was blue, and there was a great sense of presence, that amazing sense of presence that you get after a number of days on session, on retreat. So this incredible presence opened up into a sense that was extraordinary, I think, because I remember there was a tree, a very noble looking tree, a very beautiful chestnut, or maybe it was an oak tree. I'm not good on trees, to be honest, So it was a beautiful tree. And in the background, there was those wind turbines to create sustainable energy, so there was one of those in the distance. And that was very small in the distance, and the tree was very large and majestic. And I got a sense that I didn't know the difference between the very large and the very small anymore. And that there was think of Alice in Wonderland. Do you remember Alice in Wonderland when she says, things begin to shrink and things begin to grow, and it's what is very big and what is very small. So there was something going on with perception of reality. And in no way induced by anything other than many days of sitting Zazen. This sense of of relativity dropping away, that things were things in themselves. The tree was neither big nor small, and the wind turbine in the background was neither big nor small. They were incomparable with anything else. And I realized then that everything was incomparable with everything else. Everything around me was incomparable. The grass underneath my feet, the blades of grass. Nothing was really big and nothing was really small. Everything was absolutely itself. So this was another amazing kind of experience. And at this stage, I was practicing Zen, and I was very frustrated that I could only have Dokusan with Paul Haller once a year. So I went looking, and luckily I found Treeleaf, and that was the beginning of my real Zen journey. And then later on, I found in the Avatamsaka Sutra that there was a passage on this experience of not being able to tell the difference between the very big and the very small, and that everything in reality is profoundly itself. It is incredibly nothing other than itself and inseparable from all other things, but in no way comparable to all other things. And I think the word incomparable is a very key word for me as well, because think about some of the pains and traumas that we carry within our own lives, and how often they come from making comparisons to an ideal, to something that we consider to be an ideal state. Or indeed, it may not come out of us. It may come from other people imposing a comparison upon us to say that we are not what we are in ourselves, that we are in some way lesser or greater than what our comparator is, than what we're being compared to. So exploring the Zen way really gave me a vehicle, and it is the Mahayana, of course. It gave me a vehicle for these experiences and for these things I did not understand or did not know how to either understand nor not understand. And I think that was where my Zen journey began. Where should I go from here? Let me see. Will I just kind of riff it? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So then, in in Treeleaf, and we're talking 2008, 2009. So I'm in my late 30s at that stage. And as I was joining Treeleaf, I took Jukai with Paul Haller Roshi in the Suzuki Roshi lineage. So I still have an affinity to that lineage, you know. I still have a kind of a family connection to Suzuki Roshi's lineage through taking Jukai with Paul Haller. But really, where my ordination happened and my transmission happened was in the lineage we share, which is Nishijima Roshi's lineage, Rempo Niwa's lineage, as you could say as well. So, through the teachers that Nishijima empowered and ordained and gave Dharma transmission to, and I was thinking about talking today, and I just realized what a debt I owe to Nishijima, a person I never met, someone who, you know, was Jundo's teacher and who Jundo was very close to, and that here was someone that has profoundly had an influence on my life that I didn't know personally, and the way that devotion that Nishijima had, particularly to Dogen, is something that is part of my inheritance, you know, because really, I think it was every Saturday in Tokyo, Nishijima would give a talk on the Shobogenzo. Jundo will correct me if I'm wrong, and he would go through I think maybe it was Brad Warner who said it. He would go through the Shobogenzo, and then he would start again and start teaching the Shobogenzo from the beginning again. So this devotion to Dogen's Zen is something that I've inherited. And taking a leaf out of Nishijima's book, for almost 10 years now, I've been offering a monthly talk on Dogen. And guess what? I'm almost finished the Shobogenzo 10 years later. So I'm down to the last few fascicles. And so I've been really drawing deeply on Dogen in my teachings. And I realized that comes through Nishijima. And I spoke about how I feel a kind of a family affinity to Suzuki Roshi's lineage. And that has a deep affinity as well, because when I was a teenager, I was trying to find my way, and I was reading Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind when I was about 16 years old. That was a profoundly important book for me as well. But I only understood the book really when I read it years later, because it is a practitioner's book. It is a book that speaks to practitioners. It's not a theoretical book. It's a book about practice. So so Dogen and the Dogen Sangha, as it was with Nishijima, and Suzuki Roshi's lineage have been very important in my flavor of Zen. Now, I've taught on Bodhidharma, I've taught on the Platform Sutra, but I keep focusing on Dogen. So everyone has their flavor of Zen. I mean, even within the 5 houses of Zen and the true strong ones of Rinzai and Soto, we're all Zen brothers and sisters. But there is a definite family style. So I think that that family style comes through Jundo, through Taigu, through Nishijima. And that's the importance of lineage and of the teacher-student relationship and of the very, very profoundly intimate connection that is the Kechumyaku represented bloodline that we all share. All of us really are students of Dogen, I think, rather than anything else in the Soto way. So in Treeleaf, then I was practicing with Jundo as a teacher, and I was practicing with Taigu, and gradually over time Taigu became more formally my teacher and asked me to ordain. I had no intention to ordain, so I didn't look for it. It wasn't something I sought out, so it sought me out. And people often have asked me, why did you decide to ordain, or why did you decide to become a Buddhist? And this is a nonsensical question as far as I'm concerned, because it's almost like you you sat down and drew up a list of pros and cons and made a rational decision that I will become a Buddhist. Not at all. This was instinctual. This was being carried along and borne up by events. It wasn't a rational life plan. I could have come up with a better rational and maybe more lucrative life plan. Nevertheless, so I think that in a way speaks to this recurring insight in or the always.
Oh, Myozan, I think we lost you for a second. Earth to Myozan. Come in, Myozan. He's in orbit right now. We're trying to get him back. Hello, hello. Myozan. I was saying that if we lose Myozan, Bion is our backup Myozan. Get ready, Bion.
My Irish accent is gonna sound Jamaican. I told you this. Don't.
Okay, let's give it a. Oh, he went away. Hopefully he will be back. Oh, there he is again. We've got you back, Myozan.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm having some issue with my broadband provider, so my apologies. Was I gone for long?
Half a minute.
Okay. What was the last thing I said?
Something about your trip to Las Vegas. We didn't get it.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So, well, I think so. I'll take it up with. I have no idea what I was talking about. Let me take it up with.
You were talking about your relationship with Taigu and how
Oh
you
yeah,
didn't want to be a priest. Yes.
yeah, and then people ask me, why did you rationally choose to become a Buddhist? And I didn't choose to become a Buddhist, and I didn't choose to ordain, and it's not like you make these rational decisions. And I think that this speaks to a kind of a recurring insight in Zen Buddhism, where the particular and universal are not so easily separated. So, in a sense, you are born up, you have free will, but you are also carried along and born up by events. I could have said, no, I don't want to be a Buddhist, but I didn't choose to be a Buddhist. I was simply carried along by events. So, so I think that we have a very limited view of how our lives play out, and we think everything has to do with rational decision making, where so much more has to do with instinct, has to do with as if we're riding a white water river, and we have a certain amount of control to steer this way and that way, but ultimately we're going in this direction because of many myriad causes and conditions. So that's really how I feel that I arrived at this point of being a Buddhist and being a Buddhist teacher. So it wasn't a choice. Maybe it's a bit like marriage, I mean, it's not like you sit down and you go, what are the pros? What are the cons? I will make a rational decision. Okay, yes, I'll get married. No, it all goes, whoom, it comes out. Okay, it's mind, body, emotion, it's intellect, it's everything, the person that you've met, the person that you are at that moment, everything. So it's a bit like the whole works, Zenki in the Shobogenzo. Everything is operating in this much bigger way. It's not like you go, I think I'll become a Buddhist. No, everything is making you practice. Everything is making you into this Buddhist, into this Buddhist practitioner. So then I ordained with Taigu. I did retreats in Europe with Taigu. I did retreats in the United States with Taigu and Jundo in Virginia. And then Taigu sent me to Kanshoji, which was a residential monastery in France, and the Deshimaru lineage. Deshimaru is the big lineage in Europe, You guys heard of it, yeah? The Nishijima lineage, yeah? And which is remarkable because Susan O'Connell's book on the history of Zen Buddhism doesn't even mention the word Europe once, or Deshimaru, even though there's a whole history of Zen in Europe as there is in the United States. There's a 60-year-old history of Zen here. It's not as old as the USA. Anyway, so I went there, and that was like proper residential training for a summer, and that was hard going. And then after that, I started preparing for Dharma transmission. And at that stage, I thought it was time to set up a centre here in Dublin, and that was in 2014. So, and we've been homeless in Dublin for years, because I don't know where you guys live, but you are probably quite familiar with how crazy rents are in capital cities pretty much everywhere. So we were essentially a homeless Sangha for many years. We would rent from the Quakers mainly. The Quakers opened their doors to us in Dublin City. They're a very old congregation here in Dublin City. And we rented from the Quakers, and we had monthly zazen, and we rented from the Christian Brothers then when that had to finish. No, it was the other way around. Christian Brothers first. There was a lovely brother, Brother Michael, who was a bit of a Zen boy himself, really. You know, he probably didn't realize it, but he's always struck me as a Zen boy. And Brother Michael rented out to us, and then he retired, and then he was replaced by a much more conservative person, and they didn't want Buddhists hanging around this Christian Brothers place. So then we went to the Quakers. We were at the Quakers. No, we were in one other place. We were in a kind of a wellness center for a couple of years. That involved a lot of like, wellness vibes in the corridors. And then we ended up in the Quakers. And then COVID struck, and we were homeless again. And everything, we kept it going, just like using Treeleaf as a model in many ways. But not for an international Sangha. It was just really for people in Dublin that had been in our own Sangha. And then because of COVID almost destroying the Sangha, it actually also offered us an opportunity of getting a really low rent in Dublin, because no one wanted to rent anything. So we moved in there about 4 years ago, and that's been Dublin Zen Centre. And, in terms of my Zen practice, of course, it's everything that Jundo teaches. It's zazen, 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 with the community here in Dublin. But it's also sesshin. We rent a Tibetan space in the middle of nowhere up in the countryside in County Cavan. And we tend to have retreats there in summer, winter, sometimes in autumn and spring as well. And our winter retreat is very austere, and it's the Antaiji schedule of retreat. It's long periods of zazen with no ceremony. And then our summer retreat is full of ceremony. We practice services, we practice keto service, we do a memorial service for the dead that year, all sorts of stuff. And in Dublin Zen Centre, we do have a liturgical practice. So we do Seijiki, we do Rohatsu, we do Buddha's birth, we do Nihane, we do Buddha's death. So we follow a liturgical year, much of which, I would have learned from Jundo and from Treeleaf over the years. And for me, that ritual life of Zen is really, really important as well, because it creates Sangha in a really unique way. And also it marks time, because as human beings, we, take for example when we die. There was an old farmer I used to know, and in Mayo, County Mayo, and he says, when I die, just throw me in the ditch. Just throw me at the side of the road, right? He wanted no ceremony at all. But you know what? Most of us understand the importance of honouring the dead and of saying farewell. And even in something like a divorce, to say farewell. Or in a marriage, to say we will be together. So we have ways of marking time and of honouring the turning of the seasons and the changing of the years. And And I think we have a very rich ritual life within the Soto Zen way. So we honor that as well. And that's really good for creating community, because we've performed marriages in Dublin Zen Centre, and we've performed funerals, but not in the Zen Centre, in the local crematorium. So, we have a very varied demographic within the community, and we have this ritual language which is given to us by the Soto way and by the ancestors, which we skillfully adapt, for the time and place we are. In fact, Jundo talked about my book, Do Not Try to Become a Buddha. The title just comes from one translation of the Fuganza Zengi. And in that book, I'm really interested also in the ritual life of Zen. So the book is in 4 parts. The first part is about Zazen. The second is about ethics, really. It's about the precepts. The third part is about ritual, the ritual cycle of the year. And the fourth part is about I have a copy of it here. It is about just my own kind of journey to Zen, and I thought people might relate to that a little bit. So that's the book. Wisdom Publications. They did a lovely job. Same publisher as Jundo, I think. Yeah, Jundo's book is from Wisdom as well. So they do a very nice job. And I talk about the importance of ritual. So when Jundo said talk about Zen, it is Zazen. Our practice has a ritual life, and it has an outreach life. So we're involved in things like blood donation and finding kind of ways to express our precepts in a very practical way, So we tend to, sometimes a few of us would go and donate blood. But I keep almost fainting. This is a problem. And in fact, the blood donation people told me last time, we don't want to see you again. Okay, they don't want to see me ever again because I'm a liability. They have to keep me for an hour after I give blood. I'm white as a ghost. They have to put me back and give me like sugar and stuff. So that's finished for me. They literally said, do not come back ever again. You don't come back ever again. So we found, we did a fundraiser 2 weeks ago, a bake sale actually. We did a bake sale. Everyone brought a bake, and we raised money for UNICEF for children. So, our Sangha life is multi-layered, and it is very much a centre of community. So this, maybe I've spoken enough, and I could respond to specific questions at that point. I don't know. I hope that's of some use.
Oh, okay. Question and answer, Myozan? Shall we?
Yeah, unless you want me to go anywhere else with it, Jundo.
Oh, maybe. We'll have a few, and if any of the questions, please talk about them. Hoku, you emailed me a question. Wouldn't you like to ask him directly?
All right, no problem. Let me just find it now so that I read it with the right grammar. Okay. So the question is, hey, Myozan, thank you very much for talking here. And the question is, how do you find balance between respecting Japanese root of our tradition and making Dharma available to Westerners or Irish people specifically? You mentioned lots of things and liturgy, but how do you, if you adapt it to Westerners, and how it is?
Yeah, thank you. Yes. Well, first of all, we do a lot of chants in English. Not all of them. It's about 50-50. I mean, we prefer the Heart Sutra as Hanya Shinyo and the Daishin Dharani. So, but some of the other chants are in English. Certainly, the dedications are in English. So, and then we absolutely are practicing Soto rituals, but they are often slightly simplified. Okay. Because also some of the translations, you may have noticed some of the translations of Soto rituals are just too weird in English, to be honest, or there are references, you know, there are references that we just don't get that are cultural, you know. So they really have to be adapted because we are not Japanese. I'm not a Japanese person. We're not a Japanese community. We are, in this instance, in my instance, we are an Irish community. And before Christianity ever came to Ireland, there was a really, you know, there was the native religion of Ireland, which is many centuries, not centuries, many millennia old. So we have Baltana, the May festival, May, April. So Baltana, which is the ancient Celtic festival of spring, is really our Hanya Matsuri. Do you know what I mean? So, so there has to be. So in Baltana, certain flowers are put on the home altar in old-fashioned traditional Irish houses. So we put these flowers on our altar, and we do mention Baltana as part of our Hanya Matsuri ceremony. And then Sejiki, or Segaki, depending on what you call it, which is the hungry ghosts. A lot of Western, like in North America, a lot of Western Zen centers celebrate that as Halloween. But Halloween in Ireland isn't Halloween, it's Samhain. So Samhain, Iha Samhain was exported from Celtic countries, was brought with Irish and Scottish people, etc., to North America, and it became Halloween, and then it was re-imported back into places like Ireland. So we celebrate Halloween just like North Americans do. But in fact, underneath that, there's this layer of tradition and meaning that was Samhain. And Iha Samhain always was very important. When I was a child growing up, and the games around Samhain that you played. So in a way, we're not doing anything different than what Japanese temples did when Buddhism arrived into its Shinto landscape. And that the local deities, I think a lot of Japanese temples have a place where the local deity is honored. And this is, in a sense, exactly what we're doing in an Irish context. I hope that kind of answers the question.
All right. Before we move on, I just want to give a special shout out there. Catherine Say. I just want to say hello. She's our newest member at Treeleaf. In the last couple of days, I made her jump through a couple of hoops to get in here. I want to thank you for being so patient and lovely to see you here. So I just want to say that. I'm extremely patient. Okay. If anybody else has a question, would you just wave your hands and yeah, Shosai?
Found the icon. Just a quick question. Do you still find that sense of wonderment, or did it get lost in the training and life?
Thank you for your question. The sense of wonderment is latent most of the time. Just as at the end of the Genjo Koan by Dogen, the wind is latent and is only present when fanned into being. And just as when you look in the heart of winter, in the depths of January or December, when you look out at the fields, and it's not that the flowers aren't there, you just can't see them because the causes and the conditions have not emerged yet for them to bloom. So that's my relationship to the sense of wonderment. Every now and then it peeks through and shows its face. Most of the time we are living our habitual and ordinary lives, and that is really where the work is and where the practice is, because in fact the sense of wonderment or its absence, beyond that, moving beyond that is the point. Although it is very pleasant now and then to see a little luminosity shining through.
Another question?
Can I have a
Yeah.
question?
Yes, yeah, Mujo. Was that Mujo? No, who
Yes.
was that just
Okay.
now?
Okay. Uh, I wanna have a question. What is the biggest challenge when you start the Dublin Zen Centre? Can you share your experience? Thank you.
Thank you, Mujo. Yes, the biggest challenge was practical, was getting a space to practice in a European capital city. That was really the biggest challenge because we had the people, we had the thirst, we had the interest, we had the Sangha. Just no. And so there are unique challenges in starting a Buddhist community.
Oh no, I think he's gone back to space. We'll give us a. He'll come back again. Beyond, get ready. He's our backup, Myozan. I was going to joke if Myozan didn't show up and Beyond took his glasses off. We all look alike. No one would. I bet you people wouldn't notice. It was Beyond. If in all seriousness, to our priests when he comes back. Now is your chance to ask your question to your. Now I get this very confused. If you're my priest, Myozan is my grandnephew, so he's your what is it, grand cousin?
Cousin,
What's
I think, without a grand, right?
just a cousin? Okay, all right.
Yeah. The son of the uncle.
No, it
But
doesn't work
anyway,
because
Oh, I don't know.
Taigu was the Dharma heir of Chodo Cross, not
Oh, yeah.
directly Nishijima.
yeah, okay. But anyway, you had more to say on starting a Zen Center,
Am I
Myozan?
here?
Yes, yes, yes. You had,
Okay.
you had more to say?
No, sorry. Because I don't really realize at my end when I'm no longer there.
You said that the biggest challenge is the space, and then after that, the connection
Yeah, so the
is.
biggest challenge is the space and also starting a Buddhist community in a non-Buddhist country, in a country with a religious minority which is Christian, for example, as Ireland is. So this has numerous challenges. First of all, um, there's a whole structure of intergenerational wealth, really, and assets supporting Christian practice within Ireland. So there's Christian chaplains in hospitals. There are Christian chaplains in universities. Churches are handed down, and church halls and church properties are handed down from one generation to the next. And you're coming into this. Can you still hear me?
Yes, yes.
You can. We're coming into this context as a Buddhist, and that is challenging because there is no you're it's like being an entrepreneur in a way. You're starting something from nothing, and you're doing it. So all the challenges I think are quite practical, really, because there's a thirst for the Dharma. There's an interest in the Dharma. The model I think that we have to use, because we don't have a parish. If I was a parish priest, a Catholic parish priest, I'd have a whole system supporting my ministry. So we don't have that. So we have to do what other Catholic priests and nuns do in Ireland, is we have to get jobs and work, and we don't have a big Sangha supporting us. So, but a lot, I think huge amounts of Japanese Zen priests also have jobs now as well. So unless they're permanently living in Sojiji or Heiji or somewhere. So you know what? I think this is a good thing because it keeps you engaged in the real world, and it keeps you engaged in life, and it doesn't allow you to become distant in your lofty monastery. So I think these are good. These challenges are good challenges.
I think Koku, I saw you waving your hand before. He's one of our
Okay.
priests here, Koku, one of our teachers.
I remember you.
Yeah, I remember you too, Myozan. And I remember the first time you came back to give a talk. I don't know when that was, if it was like 2015 or 2014 or
10
something.
years ago, almost exactly this month, 10 years ago.
Yeah, it seems incredible.
Yeah.
Several things. Firstly, I was wondering if you have any contact with Glasgow Zen Group, if you know of them, because they're just across the Irish Sea from you, and they are run by John Fraser, who is a student of Mike Lutchford. So then Nishijima, and I only met a guy from there through chance, and I was surprised to find. So I know of Taigu in Wales, and I know of Dogen Sangha in London, but I was surprised to find another Nishijima group in the UK. So I don't know if you know about them or you.
Yeah, I know about them. I've never met them. I was only in Scotland once for 3 hours. I was in Edinburgh for 3 hours once because I used to be a journalist, and I had to interview an alcoholic French novelist called Michel Houellebecq, and the interview consisted of drinking whiskey for an hour, and then I was in a bit of I was not very concentrated getting back on the plane. So that's the only time I've been in Scotland, right? So I would love to connect with Glasgow Zen Group. I have checked out their website. I've listened to some of the Tay show online. So I mean, it just shows how important the legacy of Nishijima is and remains to be so. And how varied it is. How varied it is as well.
It really is. And one thing I see as well when people are talking about Buddhist modernism as if it's a thing that came from the West, it kind of neglects work that people like Nishijima was doing even before it came to the West. And just, unlike you, I'm incredibly touched by him, even though I never met him, and just that kind of taking from Kodo Sawaki and from Rempo Niwa and just creating this tradition which leads to people like you who, work, you have your Zen both through the Sangha and the priest work you do, leading Sesshin, and then you're also a householder and have a day job. And I always think, oh, shut up in a minute, but I always think the most powerful picture of Nishijima is him in his suit with like the okesa over the top, and it just embodies our tradition of kind of holding both that lay life and the monastic tradition as part of it.
Yeah, I mean, Suzuki Roshi used to say, you're not priests and you're not quite lay. I agree that you're not quite lay, but I think he was wrong about you're not priests. He was using a Japanese traditional kind of model that he was imposing there in what he was saying. But then he goes on to say we have to reimagine how this is done here, So I agree with that, yeah. I mean, at some stage I'd love time with Jundo to sit down and hear what Nishijima was like as a man, and to hear some family stories, some, family fireside tales,
Yeah, I think we'd all like that. Thanks. Anyway, thanks for coming, Myozan. Really appreciate it.
It's great to meet you again, Koku.
Yeah, you too.
I will just say there were no all-night whiskey drinking sessions with Nishijima. There was none of that, but he was a good fellow. I was going to say my question from the end, but it kind of ties in with what you say. So even amongst Nishijima's students, all of us, I was telling my priest here today that we're all faithful to Dogen and we're all faithful to Nishijima and we're following our way, but yet we're all different, very different. You got Brad Warner on one side, and then you got Gabrielle Wiskonik on one side. She's a Theravada nun now, and she's very conservative, and all of us are different styles. And all my priests here, you all got your own personalities, even though you're all the same yet different. So what do you think about that, Myozan? Are we the same or different, or is it? Do we forget? Sometimes we get lost in our differences, or what do you think?
Yeah, I think we get lost in our differences. It always amazes me how intemperate the Zen arguments get on social media, you know, and and I don't get involved, and I think that there is this tendency where in some quarters, not anyone here, but there is this tendency to want to impose your own vision of Zen on others, and this you know, I mean, we chant the Sandokai, we chant the harmony of difference, and the particular and the different, you know, and what is it in human beings that they want everything to be unified, to be exactly the same, to be reproducible, to be like the Ford factory of spirituality, you know, producing the Model T everywhere, and anyone that varies from that is seen as breaking some kind of orthodoxy. No, the world is various, and languages are various, and races are various, and genders are various, and personalities are various, and the weather is various, and culture is various. And this is our great strength, and this is all contained in its great variety in the unity that Zen always sees within form being emptiness, emptiness being form.
I try to remind people of that when you know now that your other Dharma cousin is an AI ordained priest. I wrote you about that. So I hope I will take your very open-minded attitude to heart. Anyone else have a question? Just wave your hand. To my priest, this is your chance to ask cousin Myozan. Yes, Kote.
No, I have really no questions. Just to say thank you for being here, and thank you for putting a face and a voice for me to reading you in the Kesa sewing corner and thinking I know you a little in a way and see you as one of those who walked this path before me. That I'm just thankful for that, and all of your how you described your awakening to Zen without knowing what Zen is in the autumn is something that I felt too. I'm one of those out in nature guys and felt something like that. So just thank you for coming.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So I have a question. How's practice at Treeleaf these days? Do you Zoom has been a great addition, hasn't it, to all this way of practicing?
I'll let Bjorn, you take that one.
I had a hunch. Yeah. Zoom has been, I think, completely redesigned what's possible and what, opened up the doors for so many things to happen and for so much community to be built. I remember everyone here telling me there's folks here that are much older in the Sangha than I am, and they know of a completely different Treeleaf where things had to be done in a specific way because there was no technology for something else, right? So, Jundo could hop on, Hangouts for 15 minutes, do a sit, but nobody else could join because there wasn't room or, there wasn't bandwidth or whatever. And all of a sudden, technology exploded. And we find ourselves being able now to have, I don't know how familiar you are, Myozan, with, a little bit of our activities, but if you look at our practice calendar, it's changed even in the years that I've been here. It's a huge number of daily sits that are happening, hosted by majority are lay practitioners, people that really want to get involved. And we have weekly Zazenkai, up to 4-hour-long Zazenkais, and we can do tea houses to communicate with each other. We do a monthly Ryaku Fusatsu ceremony. We do, anything and everything. I think we've managed to somehow adapt it to what's possible here, and taking that technology and mixing it with, old school but reliable things like the forum format, which, for younger people, it might be more challenging. But, for those of us that find it challenging, we can hop on a Zoom if necessary. But it's a wonderful way of being able to do absolutely everything.
I imagine it's seen the Sangha grow as well.
In my opinion, I've watched it sort of like water come and go. So we've got core practitioners that have been here for many, many years, and they
My
adapt and they.
my joke is I don't, COVID was what it was, a tremendous time. But up until the time of COVID, you were here, Myozan. People gave us you can't have an online Sangha. What are you doing? It's not real time. You can't do this, an online Sangha. And then COVID came and everybody had an online Sangha and said, oh, no, it's fine. So there we go. There we go.
Yeah, that's exactly right what you said. That's exactly right.
I have a question from someone at home who asked that their name not be mentioned. So I will say, they said that they had an experience much like you were describing at the beginning. I don't know what the experience exactly, but I think the experience with the tree and the windmill. How do you know if it's really an opening experience or just something? She wrote very long, but something confused, I guess is what she means.
Yeah, so I would say that that any experience in the midst of the experience, any experience like this in the midst of the experience, there is no doubt. There's beyond doubt. And doubt is retrospective. And also the experience really, maybe I shouldn't have just gone into it at all, because the experience also really should be just released and forgotten about, really, or let go. So post-experience analytics are in no way helpful to your practice, I would say. And if there's a double think, oh, was that a real experience? Was that whatever? That's just I would say that's the brain playing tricks on you. There is, in moments where things open up like that, where there's a kind of a luminosity, it isn't other than perfectly as it is. There's no, oh, I wonder if this is true. There's no intellectual element of analysis which would be in addition to such an experience. And in any case, when that experience comes, it just goes, and that's it. It's gone. But it's nice, I suppose, to know that sometimes we have these opening experiences, these luminous experiences. But as any good old Zen teacher would tell you, don't chase them, don't try and reproduce them, don't grasp them. Merely notice them, just like bad experiences. Notice them. They come into being, they pass out of being.
Just to say though, I think although you say release them, one of the things nice about having talked about them is it's kind of resonated for other people, saying, "Oh no, I that happened to me as well," and I think that's because I'm not one as well. I think that listening to people's like Satori experience is a bit like listening to people's drug stories or whatever.
Yeah.
But the good thing is, when you do talk about them like that, but just really naturally, that it does then resonate with other people, and that's just really lovely for people to say, yeah, I've experienced that as well. And just seeing it, like you've explained it, we don't have to make a big deal of it. It's just something really natural and lovely, but don't chase it down. So yeah, I'm really grateful you mentioned it. I think it's a really nice thing to do.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, I mean, obviously this was an important moment for that woman, if it was a woman or a man or whoever it was that answered, who sent in the comment, who remained anonymous. But so a very valuable and nourishing experience, but one it has its own integrity as it is, I would say, Yeah, just like you just said, Koku. Yeah.
I'm going to say it again. Anyone else? Wave your hand. Now's your chance. Hi, Bjorn.
Hello. Myozan, I remember some time ago I was looking at Nishijima Roshi's blog, and someone randomly asked the question, Nishijima Roshi, what does it mean to be a part of the Dogen Sangha? And Nishijima Roshi had this very clear sort of answer where it goes, in Dogen Sangha, when we wake up, we wash our face because Master Dogen said this and this. So my question is, what does it mean to be a member of, was it Dublin Zen Centre? Like on a weekly basis, what does that look like? What does practice with your Sangha look like in a regular old week?
Yeah, okay. So, thank you for your question. First
Thank
of
you.
all, in fact, I was touching on this the other night, Monday night, at Dublin Zen Centre, and I was talking about what it means to be a priest. Because I was referring to Shukkei, fascicle 83 of the Shobogenzo, about leaving home. And really, I think, talking about that for half an hour or whatever, the main recurring theme was what it meant to be a priest was that it meant to be of service, really. Because I looked around the room and we had a mixture of lay people and priests, and it was the priests who hoover the temple, me and the others. It's the priests who clean the incense. It's the priests who pay the electricity bill and make sure the rent is paid every month. So it is service, 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 and that rakusu is the apron of service. But in terms of the structure of how we run things, so we have most of the year we have Zazen at 7 a.m. online, okay? And the reason is because it's very difficult for people to travel in, of course. So we have 7 a.m. Zazen for half an hour with then a short morning service. Online, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Saturday, we do it at 9 a.m. to reflect weekend time. And then Sunday, we've dropped because that's kind of family day in Ireland. You know, people are doing other stuff. So Sunday, we don't have practice. Monday night is Sangha night in Dublin Zen Centre, starting at 7:30 p.m. We sit 2 periods of Zazen, half an hour each with a 10-minute kinhin in between. Sometimes it's 40 minutes, sometimes it's 25 minutes and 40 minutes, but it's generally 2 periods of 30 minutes. There's then a service and then a Dharma talk or a mondo, questions, public questions for the teacher, or a sharing circle where people can bring up whatever they want. That's Monday night, and that's called Sangha night, and that's the night that everyone's encouraged to be there. If they can only be there one night during the week, be there then. Then there's Wednesday night. Tuesday we sublet to a yoga group to help pay the rent, Tuesday night. Wednesday night we have practice night, we call it. So that is all about greater devotion to Zazen. And then we have Saturday morning Zazen at 11 a.m. So we've 3 main practices there. The Monday night is hybrid. So there's a laptop in the corner and there's people sitting all over Ireland online with us in the room in Dublin Zen Centre. So if you think about it, the practice that we do the most is online because that's almost daily. And then our main Sangha night on Monday is hybrid, is online and in Dublin Zen Centre. And then we have a 7-day session in the summer in the Tibetan monastery. We have a Rahatsu, that's usually around 3 days. And then we try and do a short weekend retreat in autumn, in the fall, and in the spring. And then we have a monthly Zazenkai, the last Sunday of every month. And in addition to that, we have the full moon ceremony. So whenever that falls, we do a full moon ceremony in Dublin Zen Centre, which is also hybrid for the people in Cork and Belfast and Donegal, different parts of Ireland. So that's our structure, really. And if we have Dokusan, I take it in the second period of Zazen on Monday nights. And if it's online, we schedule a time for Dokusan.
And thank you very much. Sounds like you're very busy.
Yeah,
you've
it's pretty. It's
you've ordained a few folks, but do you have a Dharma? Have you given Dharma transmission to anyone?
yeah. One person, Jundo, Hodo Gomoku. His name is Jay Roach, and he used to practice in the Theravadan way, and he's been a student of mine for 10 years, and he received Dharma transmission last summer.
Oh, you be sure to send him over our way sometime. Maybe he can also give a talk, Mike, because he's my grandnephew.
Yeah,
Okay, I
yeah.
want to meet him. Yeah, very
He's a
good.
great guy. He's a really solid guy. He's about 2 or 3 years older than me, and he's studying chaplaincy at the moment. So
Be sure to tell him he has an open invitation here anytime. Okay.
thank you. I will pass it on, Jundo.
Okay. Anybody else? Well, we have Myozan's time. He's got to get back to the hundreds of Kilroys he's meeting with.
Can I
Oh,
have a
okay.
follow-up? Can I have a
Can I
follow-up
ask?
Wait,
for 1 second?
wait a second. Yeah, yes. Follow up to Bjorn, and then we got two behind. Go ahead.
Myozan, out of all those things that you have on the calendar, how much of it do you like delegate to your lay sangha, to the lay practitioners, or how do you have that
Yeah.
set up?
So Zazen in our Sangha, every Sangha does it differently, but in our Sangha it's always led by an ordained person. So I have Jay, Hodo is my Dharma heir. I have a Shuso who takes care of the day-to-day running of the practicalities of the Dublin Zen Centre. And that is Kozan. There is Shinso, who's an old man in his late 70s, and he used to be a student of Trungpa Rinpoche when Trungpa was alive. So he's ordained as well in the Zen tradition. He used to be in Shambhala. Remember, Shambhala fell apart there a few years ago, so he kind of left that. And then Sansa is the first woman I've ordained, and Sansa I ordained last summer. I ordained a fellow who used to live in Dublin, and then he moved to Slovakia, and he disrobed, handed back his robes, his okase, his rakusu and everything, to me. I also ordained a man in Donegal who was always very active for about 8 years in the Sangha, and he had a lot of mental health difficulties, and he decided to disrobe as well and hand back his okesa and his rakusu and his lineage papers to me, which I still have in keeping. I have to talk to Jundo at some stage about how he handled such matters, but often I might give the kesa to another priest, and I actually ritually immolated or burnt his ordination papers. That's how I dealt with it. So,
Yeah, yeah. That's.
sorry, did that answer your question? Yeah, and then the often the jisha in the temple is a lay person, man or woman. The doan is a lay person. The ino is a lay person, but the shuso and the tanto are priests.
Thank you very much.
All those fancy Japanese words. Shosa, you had another question?
Yeah.
It's just
I
a
sure
question just a question to leave hanging in the air, really, and addressed both you and Jundo. Might our Sangha meet with your Sangha?
I think you need to talk to Jundo about that. Jundo Roshi will answer your questions as your teacher.
I didn't hear the question. Sorry.
Might our Sangha meet with the other Sangha?
Oh, sure. The Zoom, or the more the merrier. We could have a joint sitting anytime, anytime. I think I did that one other place and a couple of other places, and it worked out very nicely. And everybody was from the two sanghas was together. Maybe sometime.
I'm sure it would work. You know, the logistics of time difference is something you've mastered here, I'm sure.
I'm in Japan. It always ends up to be my 4 o'clock in the morning, but that's okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's late there already. It must be like 1 a.m. or something there.
Yes.
Okay.
Mujo, you had a question. Oh, Mujo is in Indonesia. What time is it in Indonesia, Mujo?
Now it's 11 at night.
Oh, okay, so
11
it's actually
a.m.
earlier.
Yeah.
I was thinking it was later. Okay,
Yes. Yes.
so a question from Indonesia, Mujo.
Okay. I have a questions about how do you explain about Zen to your kids or younger people, and mostly in Ireland, mostly as a Christian. So when they coming to you, a young people, and asking you why we practice Zen. So what is Zen? Especially, it's also similar with my condition in Indonesia, where people in Indonesia mostly as a Christian and a Muslim, which has a very different background with Buddhism, right? So they have a belief on the heaven and the hell. Some people do the religious things to go to the heaven and afraid to go to the hell, and they have gods to pray. How do you explain to these young people when they have this religion background? How do you explain that Zen to them, and how you encourage them to make them want to learn more about Zen?
Thank you, Mujo.
Yeah.
So I'd say, first of all, I don't try and encourage anyone to learn about Zen. I would thoroughly discourage anyone getting involved in Zen Buddhism in any way. I think it's a very bad idea. Look what happened to us. Just don't go there. Stick with Judaism.
Everybody, get out while you can.
Yeah. Stick with Judaism, Christianity, Islam. Just go that way. You're going to be fine. So, joking aside, and I'm only half joking, by the way, because I don't proselytize, and I think it's a good old Buddhist tradition not to go out proselytizing and trying to convince people. So that's the first thing. Then I have two sons, Arthur, who's 16, and Éamonn, who's 14. And so all I did was sit Zazen when they were growing up. I didn't talk to them about Buddhism. I didn't try and convince them. I didn't explain. If they had a question, I answered it. But they just saw me sitting Zazen. And then Arthur started asking questions and getting interested. And then he took Jukai when he was 14. And then Éamonn saw me practicing and went, well, I don't like that stuff. So he's interested in his grandfather's religion, which is Catholicism. I didn't baptize either of the boys. Now because I do interfaith work, I represent Buddhism on Dublin City Interfaith Forum. So I'm quite active in that. So I have Muslim and Jewish and Sikh and Hindu friends. And we do interfaith work where sometimes we have to go into schools and answer questions. But again, I think the attitude is not trying to convert or explain or encourage, but literally just to be open to the curiosity and to answer questions when they arise. So I was also involved through the Dublin City Interfaith Forum in revising the school's curriculum for religion in Ireland. So we try to encourage greater diversity because, of course, this was a very traditional Catholic country 25 years ago. It's no longer like that. So we were working on a more diverse religious curriculum for the schools. We were very successful in that, and then we were consulted on the textbooks available in the national schools around the whole country for religion. So I've been involved in lots of ways like that, but not with an agenda of trying to convince. I think we meet people where their questions meet us with open honesty as far as much as we can. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for the answer.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to give it.
Can I ask a quick question? Sorry. Something
Yes,
just
sure.
came to mind. Good to see you, Myozan. You live in
I
a
remember
country
you,
that
Kirk.
has a sacred national beverage. How do you deal with that?
Sorry?
You live in a country that has a sacred national beverage. How do you deal with that? Are you allowed to partake occasionally?
Oh, well, I mean, I think So
For
the
those
answer
who
is
don't get
yes.
the question, it's Guinness, which is really a
Yeah, yeah,
sacred
yeah.
beverage in Ireland.
Oh, of course. I partake of Guinness quite frequently. I try to enjoy my beer without getting to the level of intoxication. You know what, Kirk? Uh, when I had when I had monks from Heiji visit me from the Soto Shu, right, last year. Two monks came from the Soto Shu, one from the International Soto Shu office in San Francisco, and one from Sojiji Temple, but he was based in Paris in the Soto Zen International office in Paris for Europe. So they came to visit our Sangha here and come on retreat with us up in County Cavan, our summer retreat. Guess what the first thing they wanted to do when I picked them up from the airport was?
Go to the Guinness brewery.
We went for a couple of pints of Guinness in a nice old Dublin pub. There's a bit of music in the corner. We were all dressed in robes. Out came the pints of Guinness. It looked like a black case with a little juban on top, a little white, and we had great fun all together. So certainly the Japanese monks didn't have any problem with saying, Myozan-san, let's go for Guinness. So.
Mujo, who's thinking of coming to a Japanese lineage from Indonesia, a little more traditional, he's sitting there with a big smile on his face for some reason, thinks, yes, the Japanese monks are as crazy as you think they are. Yes, this is true. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to make a very appropriate last call. Last call. Anyone have an urgent question? Really, really urgent? Otherwise,
I just want to say one thing about the Guinness, though, before I finish on that one and face maybe the last question. Some people should never touch alcohol at all. They should never touch it because they can't deal with it. They shouldn't drink alcohol. And for other people, it's not a problem. So there is no general rule. That's all I wanted to say.
Right. I'll tell you one Nishijima Roshi story about this because I was translating his book once and I put in there a little bit, well, it's okay to drink a little wine in moderation. And Roshi also had become celibate, but he said not everybody had to become celibate, but the Japanese monks eat meat, but you don't have to eat meat. So the rule came down the way he said he was against, so he said, alcohol, no. Meat, up to you. Sex, if you can. That's what he said.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, I guess we will close there, and I will officially thank you, Myozan, for making time. I know you've got family staying with you, and you're off to a reunion. And I want to thank everybody for being here. If you have any additional question for Myozan, email me and I will forward it on to him later. And of course, you come back earlier than 10 years next time, please. I'd love to have you. And on that, I guess, where is, boy, I'm losing everything. Oh, Kote, there you are down there. Kote, would you chant us out the verse of atonement and the four vows?
I'll just say, I just want to thank Jundo Roshi for his invitation and a great pleasure to meet you all. Thank you. And to see some people like Koku and Kirk, who I haven't seen for many years and who I recognize as faces. So thanks for the invitation.
Always consider this, your home away from home, Myozan. You always got a place here.
Thank you.
Kote?
All harmful acts, words, and thoughts ever committed by me since of old, on account of beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and mind, now I atone for them all. To save all sentient beings, though beings numberless, to transform all delusions, though delusions inexhaustible, to perceive reality, though reality is boundless, to attain the enlightened way, a way non-attainable, to save all sentient beings, though beings numberless, to transform all delusions, though delusions inexhaustible, to perceive reality, though reality is boundless, to attain the enlightened way, a way non-attainable, to save all sentient beings, though beings numberless, to transform all delusions, though delusions inexhaustible, to perceive reality, though reality is boundless, to attain the enlightened way, a way non-attainable.
All right. Just thank Myozan again, and thank you all, and have a lovely family visit, Myozan. See you again.
See you again. Thank you. Bye bye, everyone. Thank you.
Goodbye,
Bye,
everyone.
John Roshi. Bye.